By the end of this video, you'll understand 6 of the biggest mistakes that are holding you back from winning matches. Mistakes that have nothing to do with talent or power, but with habits and decisions made during play. These errors sneak into everyone's game, from beginners to experienced players, but once you see them clearly, they're easy to fix. And by the time you're done, you'll know exactly how to move, think, and position yourself for success. Let's start with the first mistake, which happens right from the start of every point, on the serve. A lot of players have the habit of serving and then stepping forward immediately, almost as if they're trying to rush to the next shot. The problem? When you serve and step in too early, you're setting yourself up for trouble. If your opponent hits a deep return, you'll be forced to backpedal awkwardly, hitting off your back foot with no balance or power. That's a guaranteed way to pop the ball up and lose control of the rally. Instead, try serving and staying. After you serve, hold your ground just behind the baseline. Wait to see where the return goes, then move into position confidently. This way, you'll always have your weight balanced and ready to move forward rather than scrambling backward. If you're someone who naturally steps forward when you serve, especially if you hit with power, you can even start a small step behind the baseline so that your momentum carries you right to the line, not past it. That small tweak keeps you stable, powerful, and in control. The second mistake happens on the very next shot, the return. Many players hit a decent return, but then just stand there at the baseline waiting for the next ball. That's a huge strategic error. The goal of the return isn't just to get the ball back, it's to move forward and claim the kitchen line, which is where most points are won. When you stay back, you leave a giant open space between you and the net, a wide, inviting target for your opponents to aim at. But when you return and immediately move forward, you shrink their target, forcing them into riskier shots. Being up at the line gives you control, angles, and pressure. So next time you return, think return and run. As soon as the ball leaves your paddle, move in with purpose. Don't rush blindly, but don't hang back either. The faster you close the gap and get to the kitchen, the more control you'll have over the rally. Now let's move to the midcourt area where mistake number 3 lives. This one's sneaky. It's moving too much. Most players don't realize how often their own movement causes errors. You'll see players hit a serve, the return comes back, and they just charge forward automatically, no matter what kind of shot their partner is hitting. That kind of blind movement can backfire fast. If your partner hits a weak drop or drives the ball too high, and you've already sprinted to the kitchen, you're a sitting duck. Your opponents will attack right at your feet before you can even react. Instead of always moving in, learn to evaluate before you move. Watch how well your partner's third shot lands. If it's low and soft, move in together. But if it's high or risky, hold your position a little longer until you're sure it's safe. Now, if you and your partner have a strong rhythm and trust, you can start creeping forward earlier, especially if you know they make their shots consistently. That added pressure can force your opponents to miss, but it's a balance. More pressure means more risk. If your teammate struggles with drops or drives, hang back and support them instead of rushing in too soon. Mistake number 4 is a mental one. It's about how players think of the kitchen. When most people start playing, they're told, "Don't step into the kitchen." That simple rule gets stuck in their heads, and soon they start treating the kitchen like forbidden territory. But that mindset actually hurts your game. The truth is, you can step into the kitchen anytime you want, as long as you're not volleying a ball out of the air. The kitchen isn't your enemy, it's just part of the court. What you really want to start thinking about is your opponent's kitchen. That's your best friend. Why? Because hitting into your opponent's kitchen slows down the game and gives you time to move forward. If you're stuck mid-court and your opponent is waiting at the line, attacking them directly will almost always lose you the rally. They're closer, they have angles, and they can counterattack easily. But if you send a soft, controlled shot into their kitchen, you force them to hit up, which buys you time to move in and change the momentum. Once you start seeing their kitchen as a target instead of a boundary, you'll stop getting pushed back and start controlling the flow of the rally. Mistake number 5 happens when players finally make it up to the kitchen and then give it away. It's what we call not holding the line. You've seen it before. Players get to the kitchen, but instead of standing their ground, they keep backing off whenever a ball comes close or high. Backing up at the line is one of the biggest ways players lose control. When you retreat, you give your opponents extra time to react and extra space to attack. You also make your own life harder because your contact point drops lower, forcing you to hit up instead of taking advantage of high volleys. The key is to hold your ground as much as possible. When you can, take balls out of the air, even if it means leaning forward over the kitchen line. By volleying instead of backing off, you take away your opponent's time, keeping them on the defensive. Of course, if the shot is dipping really low or deep into the kitchen, you might need to take a small pivot step back, but that should be the exception, not the rule. The difference between backing off and holding the line is massive. Players who hold the line dominate rallies because they cut off time and control the pace. Players who retreat are constantly reacting and giving up control. So, next time you're dinking or volleying, remind yourself, hold the line, take it early, and stay in command. The sixth and final mistake happens right at the kitchen line, taking swings that are way too big. This one's incredibly common, especially in fast-paced exchanges. The moment players see a ball they think they can attack, they take a huge backswing, go for the kill, and either miss long or hit into the net. The game moves too fast for big swings. The ball travels across the net in less than half a second, sometimes even faster. There's simply no time for wide looping motions. What you need instead are short, compact, and controlled strokes. Keep your paddle up, stay tight, and use small, quick punches instead of long, sweeping swings. This same principle applies to hand battles, those rapid-fire exchanges at the net. If your follow-through is too long, you'll be out of position by the time the next ball comes back. The key is to stay compact, ready for the next shot every time. It's less about brute force and more about timing, positioning, and precision. Each of these adjustments might sound simple, but together, they'll completely transform your game. You'll move smarter, waste less energy, and put yourself in better positions to win points. Most importantly, you'll start realizing that the people beating you aren't necessarily better. They're just making fewer of these mistakes. Once you clean up these 6 areas, you'll notice an immediate jump in your consistency and control. You'll play calmer, smarter, and more confidently, and that's what separates players who just hit the ball from players who actually win points.